Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. Here's what's making news right now.
We're comfortable and confident in the capability of all those currently engaged in this proposal to meet all of our collective obligations.
Still can't breathe right. I'm still short of breath. I struggle in the heat. I struggle in the very, very cold. My brain fog. I lose my train of thought really easily.
You know, it's great just to be back and just to have a race in Windsor. So it's just great to see all your friends and, you know, the people you haven't seen in a couple years.
Thanks for joining us. Windsor police officers are taking aim at issues with the senior leadership team. That is, pardon me, I have the wrong story here. Give me 1 second, folks. We begin tonight with COVID survivors who live with lingering and debilitating effects of the virus. They are known as long haulers. A local COVID recovery program is giving many of them support, helping them cope post-COVID. But the future of the program is uncertain. It needs provincial money to continue, and that funding is still up in the air. Producer Sonia Varma has more on the recovery program and the people leaning on it to get by.
Each morning, Denise Morneau drinks her coffee, hoping it'll be the day she can taste it. Morneau has long COVID. Valentine's Day last year, she fell sick. Today, she's still living with the residual effects, including fatigue.
I have been left now without any sense of taste or smell, and I have I have this huge pressure behind my eyes, which I feel like somebody's trying to push my eyes out of my head. I can only do so much, and then I find I need to rest, but then yeah, it has impacted me greatly. There's no question about that. I just find it extremely, extremely difficult.
Morneau is seeking help at the COVID-19 recovery program run through Hotel Dieu Grace Healthcare. The program has pulled in staff from various disciplines, from psychologists to physiotherapists, to help long haulers cope with their post-COVID reality.
Well, at this point, the funding for any COVID recovery program in the province of Ontario has been left to the hospitals. So we've been funding it internally. For the first little while, it wasn't as challenging because we had to shut down a number of our outpatient programs because of COVID. So as we redeployed staff, we were able to pull the resources together, including social workers, because it's a very multidisciplinary program to address a number of needs. But going forward, it won't be sustainable. So we are talking to government. Government's very much aware of the situation. We are very, very concerned about individuals who've had COVID who are not getting the long-term support, because in the end, that could cost the healthcare system far more money than it would to fund a program of this nature.
The Ministry of Health says it's reviewing MARA's funding request while it tries to understand the scope of long COVID. MARA says the province should treat and fund long COVID like any other chronic illness. So far, more than 150 people have sought help through the local program, from Morneau to former cabbie Nabil Al-Zubaidi and minivan plant worker Wayne Martin. They're all anxious for it to continue, and especially they lean on the group sessions for support.
When you know that other people are in your situation, and you look forward for that week that you're going to go to the support group and you're going to see those people, and you can feed off them. You can let them know what your issues were, and in turn, you can listen to their issues for the past 2 weeks.
When we go into the class, they have classes, and so, one can be on grief and depression because, through something like this, there's grief because we've lost the person that we are.
And I think that the recovery program makes support for the patients, because when you hear who suffer the same what you're suffering, you understand what he's feeling. The people can't understand our situation.
If the program ended, if the program was just finished, how would you feel about that?
I will feel sad. I will feel sad because there is many people got COVID and they don't know nothing about this program. And I'm sure they are suffering.
Morneau says she'd be heartbroken to see the program dissolve, but she remains optimistic that one day she'll be able to put long COVID behind her.
Every day I'm hoping it's going to be better, and I still believe it will.
That story was by producer Sonia Varma. A new report says our city is at significant risk of losing the proposed EV battery plant if the province doesn't expedite the zoning permits it needs to start building. On Monday, council is expected to pass a motion asking the province to do just that. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa has more.
In order for Stellantis and LG Energy Solutions to build North America's first EV battery plant right here on these lands, the City of Windsor needs to get the proper zoning processes approved. Now, the companies want to start construction in August, but the city worries that there might be too much red tape. In a report headed to council on Monday, councillors are asked to approve a letter from the mayor to the province asking for help. And the city recommends a minister's zoning order, or an MZO. And an MZO is basically something that would fast track those zoning approvals and permits, but it wouldn't allow anyone to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal. Windsor has used this only once before in 1998. The city expected that it would need to do this process again.
You know, it's part of the process which was understood by all the parties from the outset, and this has been, you know, a joint effort between all levels of government as well as the Stellantis and LG partners. So, you know, this is part of our project planning. If for some reason, you know, it was not approved or not gone through, yeah, that would raise a significant concern in terms of derailing this investment.
MZOs have faced criticism in the past because they remove that appeals process. But in this case, the Essex Region Conservation Authority says that it's been engaged throughout the whole process and it doesn't have any significant environmental concerns.
The fast tracking that an MZO potentially applies is concerning and can be a grave concern if it's inappropriately applied to try and circumvent local environmental issues and sidestepping those responsibilities. But we, again, aren't seeing that.
Bernie says that they have flagged certain things like stormwater management, water quality, and drainage, as well as some of the downstream impacts that the facility could have on Little River. The city says that it needs to have these approvals in by August or it risks losing the plant altogether. But they also say that because this project is of national interest, they're confident they'll be able to get those approvals in. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
The chief of Caldwell First Nation is pleased the Ojibwe National Urban Park in Windsor is moving ahead. The bill creating the park passed second reading in the House of Commons on Wednesday.
I was elated when I heard that it passed. It's been a long time and a lot of good work was done. I'm proud of Brian Massey and all the support that he's been able to muster up to protect that last existing natural shoreline of the Detroit River.
Duckworth, however, is shocked that MP Eric Kusmerchuk voted against the bill. Kusmerchuk says he did so because it was only duplicating a process that had already begun to create the park. The park helps to preserve the Ojibwe Shores Natural Area, Spring Garden Natural Area, Black Oak Heritage Park, and the Tall Grass Prairie Park. Caldwell has been working with MP Brian Massey to support the creation of the park. After a pandemic pause, the international version of the annual Detroit Free Press Marathon is ready, set, go. The run will once again add Windsor to its route. And as Dale Molnar reports, local participants are gearing up to put their best feet forward.
50-year-old Sandra Lips plans on going the distance in the full Detroit Free Press Marathon this fall. She will be training 6 to 7 hours a day all summer and is looking forward to it.
It's a challenge, quite honestly. The last handful of years, as I mentioned, I've gotten more serious about my health and fitness. I lost about 50 pounds 4 years ago, and so physical challenges have become my thing.
The marathon went virtual only in 2020 and was only run in Detroit last year, all due to the pandemic. But now with the border reopened, the runners will once again come to Windsor over the bridge, run along Riverside Drive, and then return to Detroit through the tunnel. It will also be the first time university grad student Josh Zillis will run the marathon. He'll start out with the half marathon.
I'm excited. Should be fun. It's certainly a new distance for me, but I think it's certainly kind of well within my wheelhouse. I always do better the longer the distance. So I'm looking to test my legs out and see what I got.
Detroit Marathon veteran Jeremy Carbonaro is glad he can participate again.
You know, it's great to see the local marathon. This is, where you see all your friends, your family, everyone along the course. The crowds in downtown Detroit, they're nice. It's just a great hometown event.
The coordinator of the Windsor portion of the race says this is huge.
In the world of running, there's major marathons, like the Paris, New York, Boston, and just underneath the majors is the Detroit International Free Press Marathon. It is one of those races that is it's a bucket list item for people all over the world to be able to cross a border, run into a foreign land, cross back. And they've done it for so many years. I mean, don't forget, this race originated in Windsor.
Back then, the race started here in Jackson Park and then crossed into Detroit. This year's race will be held in October. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
And just a quick correction there. We told you that Sandra would be training 6 to 7 hours a day. What we meant to say was a week. Turning now to other international news. Raw, emotional, and graphic. Some of the words being used to describe Thursday's public hearing into the insurrection on January 6th last year. New footage and some damning revelations showed how a crowd of pro-Trump rioters tried to enter the U.S. Capitol. But the man at the center of the months-long investigation is once again dismissing the allegations. Magda Gabrielsa has more.
We saw new footage of the attack on the Capitol. We also heard from committee members that the two right-wing extremist groups, the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, planned and carried out the attack to prevent the peaceful transfer of power. And we heard that former President Trump was to blame for all of this and for not putting a stop to it.
You will hear that President Trump was yelling and, quote, really angry at advisors who told him he needed to be doing something more. And aware of the rioters' chance to hang Mike Pence, the president responded with this sentiment, quote, maybe our supporters have the right idea. Mike Pence, quote, deserves it.
We heard this all went back to the big lie of a stolen election. Some of Trump's advisors testified, and so did members of his family.
I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit.
It affected my perspective. I respect Attorney General Barr. So I accepted what he was saying.
Trump reacted to all of this using his social media app. He called the committee political hacks. He wrote that he never said hang Mike Pence. And he called out his daughter, saying she was checked out and just trying to be respectful of the Attorney General at the time. He also wrote, quote, the so-called rush on the Capitol was not caused by me. It was caused by a rigged and stolen election. Not so, says the committee. The chair promises more evidence showing January 6th goes back to Trump.
Are there going to be witnesses that describe actual conversations between these extremist groups and anyone in Trump's orbit?
Yes.
There will be?
Yes.
The next hearing is coming up on Monday. Magda Gabrielsa, CBC News, Washington.
The federal government will suspend random COVID-19 testing for vaccinated travelers at airports starting tomorrow until at least the end of the month. Unvaccinated travelers will be tested at airports, but the government plans to move that off-site in July. Ottawa had been facing mounting pressure from the travel and tourism industry, who blamed recent chaos and long lines at airports on COVID measures. Meanwhile, American officials said today that beginning Sunday, international travelers bound for the U.S. will no longer have to take a COVID test within 24 hours of their flight. Health officials say testing is no longer necessary, but it could be reinstated if a new variant appears. It is National Indigenous History Month. So over the next few weeks, we're going to share some teachings from a local elder. Teresa Sims is the City of Windsor's Indigenous storyteller, community leader, and knowledge keeper. And here she is with the story of Chief Tecumseh. And you'll notice that Sims recognizes the original pronunciation for Tecumseh during this story, Tecumseh.
We have the city of Tecumseh, and we know about the War of 1812 because it was taught during 2012 in the schools. But my family was involved in the War of 1812 as one of the 5 nations of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. I'm Mohawk, and we were aligned with Tecumseh. Tecumseh had 5,000 warriors he brought to fend off the Americans because he was undecided about the war until his village, Tippecanoe, that area, was burned to the ground by the Americans. And a lot of his family was lost. And that was a turning point. And he stood on the ashes of his community and said, I will avenge this and also fight for the British. And that was the start of a long process. For the War of 1812, they had 3,000 British soldiers, 5,000 from Tecumseh and 5,000 from the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. And also the Americans, Thomas Jefferson thought it would be a breeze just to walk through Canada and take it, because he didn't see that we had any forces here or there was any resistance at all to the Americans. They didn't put in the idea of the First Nations being on the side of the British. That was a big mistake. We fought off the Americans, and also we kept this area Canadian. So we were supposed to be receiving all the Great Lakes and the land right beside the colonies of the Americans, all the way down to Florida and through the middle of Quebec. But that didn't happen because Tecumseh died in battle, and then Sir Isaac Brock, his supporter, also died in battle. So when they had the peace talks in Gant, they didn't invite the First Nations people. So it was the Americans and the Canadians. So there was only 2 territories talked about, not the Indian country that was supposed to be given to us for that support with the British. And that's some of the history of this region.
Live look outside there. Another day, another forecast with rain on the way, and it looks like it'll continue all weekend long. Deli Ashry takes a look right after the break. Dahlia Ashry is here now for a look at our weather forecast. Dahlia, I did take a peek at the next few days. It does not look nice.
No, it doesn't. I'm sorry, but did you have a chance to put on your shades today for a bit and
I did.
enjoy that? Okay, good. So I'm glad you enjoyed it today while it lasted, because yeah, this weekend's not going to be so good. It's going to be damp. So starting off with the normal highs this time of year is 25 degrees. Right now, sitting a bit below that, 23 degrees. The normal low, 14 degrees, just a bit below that as well, 12 degrees, feeling a little cooler today. And Windsor, 20 degrees currently. Godrich, is the 19 degrees, a little bit cooler there, and Sarnia as well, and Chatham, Kent, a little bit on the cooler side. With that humidity, feeling like 24 in Windsor. Now let's take a look at that rainfall that we were talking about. Right now, it's peeking in through. You can see a little bit of that precipitation, and right now we see it, and as we head into 11 o'clock, it's going to get a little bit cloudy. But as we head into Saturday, 2 p.m., it clears up for just a bit. You get a little bit of that cloud coverage, but Saturday, 9 p.m., that precipitation really going to come in strong and heavy when we go into Sunday at 2 a.m. 8 a.m., a little bit clearer. And as you head into Sunday, 2 p.m., you get to enjoy that. A little bit of overcast, but not so much rain then. Right now, there is about 1 millimeter of rainfall in London. Not so big of a deal, not so much in Windsor, but that will pick up later on. 13 millimeters of rain Sunday at 7 a.m. as you go into your work week on Monday. Overnight tonight, Leamington, 14 degrees, risk of thunderstorm, 40% chance of rain. Windsor, 14 degrees. And let's take a look at your 5-day forecast. So tomorrow, 25 degrees, 22 degrees on Sunday, like we talked about, those wet conditions, but you get a little bit of a break on Monday. So go out and enjoy it while it lasts. 25 degrees, bring out your shades, you're going to need them. Tuesday and Wednesday, the sun might be peeking through, but look at those temperatures. Very hot, very warm, 28 degrees. 34 degrees on Wednesday. You get that risk of thunderstorm, 40% chance of rain, and a low of 23. So it's going to be hot, humid, and you're going to get that rainfall, but it's okay. Yeah, at least you have Monday to just enjoy it while it lasts.
Exactly. Thanks so much for that, Dahlia.
Thanks, Katerina.
More local news when we come back, including the story of a young science whiz. Stay with us. Welcome back. A dream catcher weaver from Windsor is moving to a new phase of her artistic career. Marlene Paul has arthritis and now finds it difficult to do the weaving. She's learning how to make detailed 3D figures. Paul wants to create models of Indigenous superheroes that are not well known by comic book fans.
Believe it or not, Marvel and DC actually have a massive amount of superheroes that are all Native American. But people don't know that. Like, this is Dawnstar. She's Marvel. Or she's DC, I think. But she comes from a planet where they're all Native American. Right? And this is Daniel Moonstar. She's also Native American from Cheyenne Nation. She's also called Mirage. Right? And she's from Earth 616. So it's just different heroes, and believe it or not, the first Raven from Teen Titans, from Earth Prime, is Native American. She's Navajo. But the Raven everybody sees is, you know, the one they all know in Teen Titans, but the one from Earth Prime is actually Navajo. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to take all of these different Native American superheroes, say where they're, you know, where they appeared, and make 3D action models of them, design them from scratch. Take what I see in the comics and online and then make my own action superheroes. So that's where I decided to go with my 3D printing, but it won't be until the spring because I'm still learning the program. It's so different from Photoshop. It's called ZBrush. And it's like a huge sculpturing program. It's like sculpturing clay, except you're doing it on a program. And it's a lot different from Photoshop. Like, I've got 30 years of Photoshop, so and I'm self-taught for that. So it's gonna take a while just to learn it. When I was telling younger Native Americans at the powwow that were fans of Marvel and DC about the superheroes, they were so excited. They're like, really? There's Native American superheroes? And like telling them their names and who they are. And I'm actually looking forward to doing that and maybe making some fans of, you know, the Apache Kid and Dawnstar and Moonstar and all that.
A Windsor High School student is being honored for his scientific findings. The grade 9 Vincent Massey student's project is called Unraveling the Secrets of Healthy Aging, and it could pave the way for future anti-aging drugs. His work is getting some attention and multiple awards, including silver at the Canada-wide Science Fair.
More or less, I discovered new anti-aging drugs that have a high potential to be useful to many people and are abundant in natural compounds such as like cumin, oregano, saffron, and a lot of other everyday foods. And my hypothesis was, can we find a solution to aging that is affordable and easy to access for all of humanity? I did find some very promising results that could lead to future anti-aging drugs, yes.
That is very impressive stuff. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. That is where you can find Sonia Varma's story about long haulers and what they've been going through. We're also on social media as well. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great night and a great weekend.